everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, or if you just forgot, of course, I am Miss Wagers, and I will be your teacher for the day. We are going to continue reading the story, The Three Native Nations of the Woodlands, Plains, and Desert. And we are reading pages 18 through 25 today. So let's go ahead and get started with our learning intentions. We are learning to identify the main idea and key details so that way we can summarize the text. Now, this is a skill that we haven't worked a ton on this year, so that's something that we really need to pay attention to today. So we know we're successful when we can identify the main idea of the text. That's something we've done a lot, as well as you identify the key details that support the main idea. And so when we summarize, which we'll talk about, we put the main idea and the key details together in order to form a summary. And so that's the real big thing that we're going to work on today. Moving on to our foundational skills, we have the Latin roots struct, scrib, and scrip. So the Latin root struct means to build. Latin roots all have their own meanings, just like prefixes and suffixes. Scrib and scrip both mean to write. So when you see a word that has the root scrib or scrip, sometimes we also call this a base word. That means that it's going to have some sort of a writing meaning. So it also says that Latin roots often have prefixes and suffixes that carry meaning as well. So like, for example, if we put the base word or the Latin root struct with the suffix -er, then we have structure or something that is built, okay? Because it's the suffix ure means something that is, and then we know the base word or root word struct means to build. So let's practice that a little bit more. So I have listed this table here with all kinds of prefixes and suffixes and their meanings, along with, again, our three Latin roots that we are focusing on: struct, scrib, and scrip. So let's take a look at the word reconstruct. Reconstruct. So I see that it has that Latin root of struct right here, S-T-R-U-C-T, and I see con and re. So con, C-O-N, means together, and re means again or back. So if I put the meanings of all these together, so I have again, together, and to build. So I could say maybe to build together again, reconstruct. If you reconstruct something, you're putting something back together again, right? So we take the meanings of all of those different word parts to figure out the meaning of that word as a whole. Let's try another one. So we have construction. What base word do you see? What Latin root is that? Did you say struct? Because again, it's the base word or the root word struct, which means to build. So we know this word is talking about building. And you're probably going, Miss Wagers, I already know what construction means. I totally get it. But we should be practicing with words that we already know. So that way it's easier to know if you have the right answer. We're going to practice with something familiar first. And so then I see a prefix here, con, C-O-N. So again, just like the last time, we know that means together. So together, to build. But then I have T-I-O-N here on the end. Oh, I see that right here. It says the result or act of. So let me think. I have together, to build, the result or act of. So sometimes you might have to change the order of those a little bit. So I might say the result or act of, to build, or building together. So construction, if we're talking about construction, like if you're a building being constructed or construction, they are putting it together. That is the act that when construction workers are actually building that building, they're putting it together. So that is what you are going to be practicing a little bit today. I simplified for you so that way you are just underlining the root word. So remember, our root words were struct, scrib, and scrip. And then I want you to circle any prefixes or suffixes in each word. And sometimes there will be a prefix and a suffix. So be sure that you pay attention to that. Our vocabulary for today, we have the word nourished. And we're going to find that on page 20. So the sentence that it's used in says, the meat nourished the whole nation, while the organs were used for medicines. So we need to think, based on this picture and the sentence, what does nourished mean? Right. It means to have, it says provide the food or other substances necessary for growth, health, or a good condition. So you want your body to be well nourished. So that means that you don't just sit there and eat Takis all day long, because those aren't going to provide you the proper nourishment. You also have to eat some fruits and vegetables and proteins. So that way you have a well-balanced diet. So that way your body can be nourished to have everything that it needs to grow. Our next one is revered. And it says the buffalo bulls were so large and fearless that they were revered by warriors. And we've got Blake Shelton from The Voice going, bowing down. So that's a hint for you. They're bowing down. Blake Shelton, when he gets up, he's bowing down. That means he usually really wants to get one of those singers on The Voice. He's like, yes, yes, you are so amazing. So revered means that you're feeling a deep respect or admiration for something. So if Blake Shelton is up there and he's bowing down to that singer up there, he's really admiring their performance that they just had. And in our sentence here, we'll have to learn, it says the Buffalo Bulls were so large and fearless that they were revered by the warriors. So that means that they probably really respected or admired those bulls. And lastly, we have the word continent. And the continent, it says, but more and more settlers cross the continent in search of places to live. This is one that you just kind of have to know. So a continent is any of the world's main continuous expanses of land. So our continents on the earth, we have North America, that's where we live, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia, and Antarctica. So the continents are like the big chunks of land. That's the biggest chunk of land that we'll talk about, is a continent. Okay, so let's get reading. The Sioux, masters of the northern plains, fighting for food and freedom. A fit man rides a small, tough horse. He pursues a huge, fierce bison. The bison swings its head to the side, trying to gore the horse and the rider with its sharp horns. Watching the pursuit from the hillside, a woman in a hide dress and a young boy scream encouragement. The hunter's success means life itself and the watchers on the hill, to the watchers on the hill. Thanks to the pony, success is almost certain, but the hunt is still dangerous to the hunter. So they're saying this is very dangerous, but it's literally important for their life. So my question for you this time, a little bit of a different question than we normally have, is how does the art on this page support the main idea of the text? So let's think, because the main idea is one of our success criteria, right? So let's think, what is the main idea? Think to yourself. You're thinking, what is the author mainly telling you about here? Well, I can see from this heading, fighting for food and freedom. And then I know in the text they were talking about hunting. So I might say that hunting is important for the Sioux. And so how does this picture help show that? Right? Well, of course, it's an artwork showing the Sioux actually hunting for their food. They're hunting the bison. Okay, so let's continue. Dadanka gives life. According to legend, before time began, the Sioux lived beneath the ground. They called themselves Pide Oyate, or the Buffalo Nation. But they moved to the surface of the earth. Out in the sunshine, life was difficult. The people of Pide Oyate struggled to survive. Then a Holy Spirit came to them in the form of a buffalo. The spirit's name was Dadanka. The buffalo gave the people everything they needed to live well. The Sioux used every part of the buffalo. The shaggy hides made blankets and warm robes when the buffalo hair was worn against a person's skin. The smooth hides were sewn together with buffalo sinew to make watertight teepee coverings. The horns made spoons and cups. The meat nourished the whole nation, while the organs were used for medicines. Buffalo hooves were boiled for glue. The bones made tools and toys. So as you can see, it says that they used all of the buffalo, every part. And remember, it says that the buffalo also nourished them, so it provided them with the food that their bodies needed to be able to survive and grow. The buffalo bulls were so large and fearless that they were revered by the warriors. So remember, that means that the warriors really respected and admired them. All buffaloes were deeply honored by the Sioux, who thanked the animals they killed. Each buffalo was a gift from the generous Great Spirit. Throughout the warm months, the Sioux followed the herds of buffalo as they moved across their hunting territory. If a herd remained in one place for a number of weeks, the people would stay nearby. So, our question is, how does the legend of the Dodonka help explain the life of the Sioux? Well, let's think back. So it says that originally, according to the legend, before time began, the Sioux lived beneath the ground. And then out in the sunshine, life was difficult. But the Holy Spirit came in the form of a buffalo. And so now we understand that this says the Sioux revered the buffalo. They really respected them. They used every part, and their life really seems to revolve around the buffalo. So this legend showing that this buffalo was a gift to them kind of helps explain why the Sioux and their life really kind of revolves around the buffalo. The buffalo is extremely important to them. A warrior society. The Lakota Native Nation, one of the people best known as the Sioux, fought long and hard to protect their lands and way of life. Even today, they struggle to hold on to their history and culture. The name Sioux, which is most often used to describe the Lakota, is not one they gave themselves. Sioux comes from a Chippewa word meaning enemy, but Sioux is widely used today. The Sioux called themselves Ositi Shakowi, or the Seven Council Fires. This refers to the 7 groups of people who spoke different dialects of the same language. By the 1800s, the Lakota, with their allies, the Cheyenne and Arapaho people, were the most powerful people in the northern Great Plains. They were determined to keep their lands. But more and more settlers crossed the continent in search of places to live. Conflict became inevitable. Yet, the wars that followed were most often the result of the United States failing to honor their terms of treaties they made with the Sioux. The Lakota were at war at times with the United States from the 1820s until their final defeats in the 1880s. The Sioux fought because the treaties they signed in 1825, 1837, 1851, and 1868 were all violated by settlers. In 1868, the Fort Laramie Treaty guaranteed that no whites would trespass in the Black Hills, which were the sacred heart of the Lakota land. Then, gold was discovered there in 1874. The final battles began. Ultimately, the Lakota were defeated and forced to move to reservations. And remember, that continent, those are the pieces of land. And so it said that the Lakota, they took up a lot of the continent, but those settlers started crossing the continent into their area. So, family life. Sioux men and women were equals, but they had different jobs in their society. The men had 2 main roles. They were hunters and warriors. Small groups of men worked together to hunt buffalo, deer, elk, and antelope. War parties included large numbers of men. Sioux warriors fought other native peoples to control hunting territories. Sometimes war parties raided other nations to steal horses. The men also guided and protected the members of the village when they moved to camps during the buffalo hunting season. During the winter, many men may have made or repaired their bows, arrows, and other tools or weapons. So let's stop and think. Why would land be important to the buffalo hunters? Well, let's think about it. Obviously, the buffalo, they are traveling the land. They don't just have one place to live. They're not on a farm where they're fenced in. And so it's going to be important to the buffalo hunters because they need that land to be able to find the buffalo, and the buffalo need to be living there. If their land is getting smaller because settlers are coming and taking that land away, their space that they have to hunt where the buffalo might live is getting smaller and smaller too. And so their chances of being able to hunt buffalo are going down with the less land that they have. So let's talk today about summarizing. Remember, this is our learning intention and success criteria for today. So when we summarize the text, we write about the main idea, which is why we have to know how to find the main idea, and the supporting details in our own words. The main idea is what the text, of course, is mostly about. And so I have this little hand here to help us remember how to summarize. So you take the main idea and then details, details, and details, usually about 2 to 3 supporting details. And then at the end, you restate your main idea again. So we're going to practice with pages 22 and 23. So this page specifically, remember, it talked about the warrior society. And so we want to be thinking, well, what's the main thing? What's this mainly about? Well, when I look at my chart, we're going to use a regular main idea and details graphic organizer. So I could say that the main idea is that the Sioux were powerful people who fought for their land. And then I need to be able to support that with some key details. So then I'm looking, well, what do we know about this? Well, it says that the word Sioux actually meant enemy, but it's widely used today. So let's go ahead and include that. So they're powerful, and we know that people called them an enemy. So that must mean that they're powerful. Let's see what else we can put in there. So it says, let's see. By the 1800s, the Lakota, with their allies, the Cheyenne, and Arapaho people, were the most powerful people in the northern Great Plains, and they were determined to keep their lands. So I could add that to my chart as well, that they were the most powerful. So I put in my chart that the Sioux and their allies were the most powerful people in the northern Great Plains, because again, that's supporting me saying that they were powerful people, right? And then let's look for one more. So I think I'm also going to put, it said that they had to fight a lot. So it says, let's find it. Yet the wars that followed were most often a result of the United States failing to honor the terms of their treaties they made with the Sioux. And treaties are like agreements. So the United States was not holding up their end of the deal. They weren't sticking to what they said. So I also put the Sioux fought because the treaties they signed were violated by settlers. So here, now I have my main idea and 3 supporting details. So I am going to use that and put all of these together into a short paragraph to summarize the page. So instead of having to read that whole long page, we're going to put this into just a few sentences. So let's look at how I did that. So I said, the Sioux were powerful people who had to fight for their land. Okay, that is basically the main idea, because remember, our first sentence, we want to be the main idea. Then we want to include our details. So my 3 details. And I combined some of these into one sentence. So I said they signed many treaties that were broken by settlers. Okay, so that was this key detail right here. The word Sioux means enemy. So that was my other key detail. And, so I used the word and to combine that, they had many allies to help them protect their land. So that was my key detail that I had in the middle. And notice that I didn't have to use them in the order that I put them in my chart. And then lastly, for my restate the main idea. Even though the Sioux were powerful and fought for their land, remember that was the main idea, eventually they lost it. So I did add a little extra by saying that they did eventually end up losing their land. So for your reading response today, you are going to practice with pages 24 and 25. So you want to be sure to state the main idea, just like I did, and then those key details to support the main idea. And differently than what I normally do, I'm going to give you a little bit of a head start. So family life, remember, Sioux men and women were equals, but they had different jobs in their society. The men had 2 main roles. They were hunters and warriors. Small groups of men worked together to hunt buffalo, deer, elk, and antelope. War parties included large numbers of men. Sioux warriors fought other native peoples to control hunting territories. Sometimes war parties raided other nations to steal horses. I'm going to pause there. There is another page. But thinking about the main idea that we've heard so far, I would put that men and women were equal, but they had different jobs. Because that was, again, one of the first sentences, and it started to tell us about those jobs that the men had. So you, to help you with your summary, I've given you your main idea. You need to come up with the 3 key details, so that way you can actually write that paragraph. Because although I'm including this graphic organizer in your reading response, your actual answer needs to be a short paragraph, just like what I did here. And I wrote, this is my paragraph. It's not long, so I don't want you to be intimidated by the word paragraph. You are going to have probably 3 to 5 sentences. You can do this. Just remember to follow those steps. Main idea, detail, 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 and then restate the main idea. I believe in you. You can do this. Have a wonderful day. get all of your assignments done. Be kind to one another, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.